Hello, I am Mick Collins with Tree Consulting. This is the February 2024 analysis as a total. We're going to go over the entire month here. If you are at my Patreon, welcome. Thank you for joining. I really appreciate you being here. If this is YouTube, then this is being released on the 29th of January. Please let me know if the sound quality is okay, because this is my first time recording on Zoom for a later date. And I want to make sure that everything is working well for you. If you like what I do, feel free to leave me a little something on Ko-fi, or send me a tip on Venmo. I also have obviously the Patreon link for those of you who are at Patreon. Thank you for being here. For those of you who are at YouTube, feel free to hop over to Patreon, because this stuff is released on the 15th of every month, for the following month, to give you a little bit extra time of that buffer of preparing for the next month and what's about to happen. If you would like a reading with me, head on over to sabretreeconsulting.com and we can book that together, and I can help you through the next year. We can do some zodiacal releasing. We can look at the peaks and valleys of what the next year has in store for you, as well as your solar return chart, and so on and so forth. But let's get into February. Okay, so on February 5th, I'm going to pull up the calendar real quick because I don't know what days are what days. Bear with me here. All right, so we are looking at February. February 5th is the first transit, and that is a Monday, and that is Mercury is entering into Aquarius. Okay. And so this is happening at 12:10 a.m. and it's a feeling of like when a relationship ends and you're kind of sad that it's ending, but you're okay with it because you know that that leaves space for something else that's coming through. And that the memories of that are a blessing. Like when someone passes in the Jewish faith, we say, may their memory be a blessing, because you always want to look back with fondness. And so the feeling of mourning, of that sadness, it doesn't last long, because Mercury is actually zooming through Aquarius right now. On the 5th, it's in Aquarius, but then like by February 22nd, it's moved on to Pisces. So this is rapid. Mercury is getting ready to, then right after that, in March 9th, it's heading right into Aries. So now that January 15th and the shadow period of that last Mercury retrograde has happened, Mercury's doing its thing where it's just flying from sign to sign. And so we might see for a couple of weeks that there's this possibility of parts of the foundation is being let go in hopes of better things in the future. Okay, moving on to February 9th, which is a Friday, we have the Aquarius new moon happening at 5:58 p.m. at 20 degrees of Aquarius. And this, what we have to consider here is this a hill you're willing to die on? Okay. There's probably a way to still get what you want. You know that the movie, I'm old, I'm about to date myself here. You know the movie My Big Fat Greek Wedding, where like the older woman sits on the bed and she's like, the man might control the head, but the woman controls the neck and she can tell the head which way to turn. Not that I love that that's something that women have to do when they're in a relationship with men. However, it's that type of vibe. Okay, like you might be 100% valid in how you are 10 toes down right now. However, it's not going to work. You got to find another way. And so it's kind of like if you've ever done Tai Chi, or if you've ever done any kind of martial arts, when you're in a defense kind of course, instead of coming up directly and smacking something, if someone is going through with something, like you watch Bruce Lee, he goes with the energy of it and then is able to move it. Like there's this flowing type of activity that's happening. And I feel like we are going to be seeing that happening around us, where instead of butting heads against our enemies, we're going with the flow and basically letting them dig their own graves. Okay. The following day, on Saturday, February 10th, we have Mercury in a square with Jupiter, and the square is in the nature of Saturn. Okay, so this is a friction. It's that bending, that 90-degree angle, and in order to get out of it, you kind of have to use friction in order to stand up. You know what I mean? So it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just, it's going to force things to change. And this is happening at 8:24 a.m. on the 10th. And we are secretly doubting the plans and whether or not they're going to work. Okay. There's a possibility that what we're going to see is politicians talking about plans for communities, for infrastructure, and the rest of us are just kind of looking at that politician and like, are you living in the same place that we're living? Are you using the same trains that we're using? Because like, and that sounds great, but like, what's the reality of it? And so as a people, we're making plans behind the scenes. And like, because whatever can go wrong will go wrong, and sometimes you need to have like a backup plan and then a backup plan for the backup plan. The only time you don't end up doubting plans like that is when you like, even when you fully believe in something, sometimes you still doubt yourself. Like I was painting a room, I wanted it yellow and emerald green, and that first coat of green that I put on, I was like, I don't know if this is gonna work. But I kept going and I kept painting like coat after coat after coat. And then when it got to the point where I couldn't see the primer behind it, I was like, "Ooh, I really like this color." But like you have to have a kind of belief in yourself in order to go through with that. And I don't know about you, but when it comes to politicians, that blind faith isn't exactly something that they instill, at least in me. All right. On the 13th, which is a Tuesday, February 13th, we have Mars entering into Aquarius, joining this Aquarius party. Okay. And this is happening at 1:05 a.m., which means since Mars is a night planet and this is happening during the night, Mars actually has a good amount of power happening here. And it's that urge to fight for your foundation is strong. But baby, you are not thinking clearly. Okay. The emotions are clouding your judgment. This is kind of one of those things where like you have to take a page out of the Virgo pocket of like Virgo book here, where you're just keep the receipts. Be angry, keep the receipts, and then act like Cat Williams and lay that out when the time is right. Hold on to that. Keep that in your back pocket. Because you can get yourself in a lot of trouble. A lot of trouble real fast because your emotions are bubbling to the surface, and it's not going to do what you think it's going to do. Okay. Especially if we're angry and the politicians think that we're angry, but they feel valid in the choices that they make because, you know, the United States functions as the United States does. And this is strictly for what's happening in the United States, because I am not adept at calling things out in other countries. I'm aware, but I don't live there, so I'm not going to speak on that. But at least here, if we're angry about something as a people, at this rate, on this day, they're just going to hear it as like a buzzing. It's not going to be nearly as like impactful as we think it's going to be. 2 days after Valentine's Day, Valentine's Day is on a Wednesday this year. there's definite possibility for earth-shattering schmexual relations on that day. So, I'm just gonna leave that there because Mars and Pluto are lining up. But since I practice traditional Western astrology and I don't really touch on the outer planets too much, I'm not really gonna go into that, but just be aware. On the 16th, February 16th, which is a Friday, Venus moves into Aquarius, and this is happening at 11:05 a.m. So this is happening on Venus's day. However, this is during the day. And currently Venus is a morning star, which means she's not lovey-dovey Venus. Okay, this is Xena Warrior Queen. That's what, or Xena Warrior Princess, whichever it was. I used to love that show. I watched it all the time. Anyway, there's legal and publishing things that they're stuck. Like they're stuck, that it's not going anywhere. And it's almost as if all communications are a little close to the sun and all media just isn't connected as it should be. So Venus is joining the party will help temper things with Mars and Mercury, but it's time to get some fresh air or smell some flowers. And if you are laughing at me, it's because my memory is crap and I can't do things the way that like Stormy Grace does things or other astrologers do things where they just look right into the camera and they tell you what's going on. I will look something up. I will do my research, but like I have a 5-year-old and an 8-year-old. My energies are elsewhere most of the time. I couldn't even remember that today was wear your green shirt day and I had that on the calendar. And so, but anyway, I digress. Venus in Aquarius is going to be it's interesting. This entire time, both when Mercury is in Aquarius and then Mercury when it's in Pisces, Mercury is basically combust. And what that means is Mercury is very close to the sun. And since Mercury isn't in its own sign or well, just in its own sign because Mercury is only exalted in its own sign. It's just, you can't really see it. Things are getting burned up. Technology is getting burned up, overheating. Transportation has the possibility of overheating. The entire time that Mercury is that close to the sun, it's like you're watching a performer on stage and they can't see the audience because the lights are too bright. That is what this is like. And when Venus is joining the party, she's helping to temper things, but it's going to be a more aggressive Venus. Okay. She's going to help things get done and in a more positive way. But like Mercury is still having a rough go of it this whole entire time. 2 days later, on Sunday, February 18th, we have the sun entering into Pisces. So Pisces suns, happy birthday. Pisces risings, the sun is now in your first house of self. So if you're feeling a little selfish, don't be surprised. Don't be surprised if people tell you that you're selfish. Pisces risings, okay? That tends to happen when the sun gets into your first house as a Pisces. That Sun Jupiter combination is just, it's a little wild sometimes. The leader of the politicians, like possibly the United States president, and laws are finally starting to get on the same page here, and the public is in the public, the citizens have the most power at this point in time. So things need to be released before we move on. Maybe foundational relationship in government between nations is changing regarding kids or the arts. Okay. And so that could be, it could be finally asking for a ceasefire. It could be finally realizing that AI is dangerous and causes issues. I don't know, but the Pisces season is going to be interesting. On February 22nd, which is a Thursday, Venus and Mars get together at 2:14 a.m. So these two planets are joining forces to overcome obstacles. Both are morning stars here, and even though they have more power, Venus is in warrior mode and not lover mode. So the fight is opposite to the public approval, but it could be more of a respectability issue, okay? Um, thing, which happens quite often when people who look like me end up doing protests. Okay, so um the people of the global majority in the United States are not the majority in the country. And so we tend to have this issue whenever we are looking at like Cop City in Atlanta, or we are protesting things like how we are having a relationship with Israel right now. Um, the elite and certain demographics think that we're just not doing it the right way. There is absolutely positively no right way to oppose oppression. It doesn't exist. So you're going to want to let that go if that's what your mentality is. Okay. Um, on the 24th, we have, oh no, wait, I lied. On the 23rd, we have Mercury entering into Pisces, and it's going to be there until March 9th. This is happening at 2:28 a.m. Um, hmm. Mercury in Pisces is a hot freaking mess. It's a hot mess. Okay. Once again, we're combust to the sun. We're too close to the sun here. So um, even if you're looking at the most positive aspect of Mercury in Pisces, which is just basically this golden retriever energy, okay? It's like somebody who is your best cheerleader and they are just like saying the most wonderful things about you and they're just so happy and overly optimistic. It's still too close to the sun for it to actually be super effective. And so we're fighting for our lives here. Well, the communities are anyway, with a possibility of getting straight up propaganda about American exceptionalism. Be careful you don't fall for the hype. Working ourselves to the bone isn't good for anyone, and neither is individualism. So I can't tell you how many videos I've seen of people who are like, oh, we are going to have wanderlust. We're going to move to Europe because Europe is so much better and there's walkable cities and there's third places. I need you to understand that the reason why those things don't exist in the United States of America is because it's that done that way on purpose. We have a very big pull yourself up by the bootstraps, work yourself, have this job, have that job, have the other thing, and then you'll be able to afford your necessities in life. And that it doesn't work for anybody. Okay. Um, on the 24th of February, which is a Saturday, Venus and Jupiter square up at 11 p.m. And so the femmes are fighting like Xena Warrior Princess about relationship laws. There's a possibility that this is fighting for the rights for contesting divorce, like not a no contest divorce laws where you just get to file without getting your husband's approval. This could be a fight about whether or not we're putting pregnant people in jail for having an abortion. You know, like what what are we fighting for here? Now, on earlier that morning is the Virgo full moon, and that happened at 7:30 a.m. I did that out of order. I apologize. So at 7:30 a.m. with this Virgo full moon at 5 degrees, break out the crystals. Charge them. Whatever it is your spiritual routine is for this full moon, I 110% support you doing your magical, witchy, bruja, whatever. Do it. Do it. Let the ancestors guide you on this one, okay? Because it's a beautiful vibe of everything going your way, and it's a feel good for like if you're charging things under this moon, you can use this energy for the next 6 months. I know it's a wrap up of whatever we started back in Virgo season, but like you're feeling good about that wrap up, okay? Um, it doesn't matter if the world is burning right now or if people are ridiculously picky. There could be enemies hiding in the shadows to fight your community, but it feels like sunshine and rainbows are coming out your butt. Okay. So if you are looking for that feeling and you want whatever articles that you use, whether it be crystals, whether it be bracelets, necklaces, protective oils, you want that feeling of like everything is perfect no matter what, go for it, charge that stuff. On the 27th, which is a Tuesday, we have Mars squaring Jupiter at 3:29 a.m. So we're fighting over changes in resources is possible here with the fighters having the upper hand. And let's remember that just because things are legal doesn't mean that they are morally correct. Okay, there are a lot of things that we have had that are legal in this country that doesn't mean that they're good for the people. And so sometimes that's why we're fighting for things. Are we fighting for fresh water? Like Michigan still doesn't have clean water. There's so many places in the United States of America that don't have clean water while the company of Nestle is pumping clean water for free and then selling it for a profit. Okay, so like what are we fighting over here? On the 28th, the Sun and Saturn have a perfect meetup at 4:25 p.m. And so if the president announces that we're going to war to fight for other people's resources and improve his public image or polls, I won't be surprised. Okay. Is he going to be overly excited and over exaggerate how important this is? Yes. Are we going to fall for it? No. Is he going to care? No, because this man has absolutely no concept whatsoever of what the people want and what the people need. Like they do not care. They want the polls and his image to improve, but they're not willing to listen to the people about what that's going to take. All right, so this is a leap year. Thursday is February 29th. We have one more extra day to Black History Month. And so we have three things that are happening. At 3:42 a.m., we have a Mercury cazimi. The Sun and Mercury are finally meeting up exactly. And so once it hits the center, now this is aha moments. Okay. It's aha moments or a release of information about how transportation or infrastructure or tech is going to leave its mark on the world. Okay. I say that as a train is going past my house. At 4:52 a.m., we have Mercury in a sextile with Jupiter. And one can hope that the president is humbled by the people letting him know that whatever it is he announced the day before isn't going to fly. But there's a good chance that it's just an angry, emotional buzzing sound to him. And Congress and him are focused on our resources growing anyway. Okay, so if you don't know much about civics, in order for the United States to send money overseas to another nation, it has to be approved by Congress first, unless the president has made a decision to override Congress. Okay, so now him and Congress are on the same page, according to the skies, and they might not be listening to us and sending money, our tax money, where we don't want it to go. At 10:07 a.m. that same day, Mercury and Saturn have a perfect meetup, and that release of information or that tech is being looked over with a fine-tooth comb just to make sure all the T's are crossed and I's are dotted, because Murphy's Law exists. Something is bound to go wrong. Like there's, especially when you're talking about transportation or technology, like we said at the beginning of the month, or like I said at the beginning of this month, you got to make sure that like we're not missing anything, because then that's when people die and we don't want that to happen. That is everything I have for February. I will be doing individual monthly ingresses for all of the signs. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. There's 6 ingresses, which just means a planet moving into a new sign for the month of February. Plus, we've got the new moon and the full moon that are in there. Did I do that? I think I did. I'm gonna have to double check. But it's one of those things where like it's very important to keep track of how these things are affecting you as they move into a new sign because it's a new area of your life. Once again, if you like my work, if you like listening to me ramble and geek out, and you've got a few extra coins, I would really appreciate it if you could send it to Kofi, Coffee, or Venmo. And if you want a reading with me, feel free to head over and get that reading by going to sabretreeconsulting.com. All the extra, like the donations that I get or the tips that I get, are actually going to my nonprofit organization that is for special education advocacy. I want to be able to have families and children have the advocacy that they need without having to pay if they don't have those kind of resources, because it is expensive. Um, Thank you for being here. I appreciate you being here, and head on over to your rising sign horoscopes for the month. Remember that you are worthy of all the good things that are headed your way. Bye.